Hey, I'm not sure if you heard about this woman. Her husband died, and he left her with R500,000 in cash. But at the end of the first week, she's pleading poverty, telling her friends she's got no money. And they said, hang on, you just told us your husband left you 500,000 rand in cash. He said, yes, but I spent 50,000 rand on the funeral, and I spent 450,000 rand on a memorial stone. I said, whoa, that must have been quite some memorial stone. She said, yes, 3.5 carats. Yeah. Before I forget, Craig's asked me, I said it in my notes here, Craig has lost his glasses, folks. His Oakley glasses, they were left here. If anybody's picked up some glasses, please let him have those. Folks, I want to speak to you this morning about speak the blessing. I'm going to tell you, your words have the most remarkable power, maybe more power than you've ever begun to imagine. You know, every one of you have people in your life who need a blessing from your lips. Maybe your children. They need to hear from you as parents. I'm proud of you. You're going to do great things. And when you speak words like that, you've spoken a blessing into their lives. You've released God's favor into their lives, because that's your job as a parent, to be encouraging to your children. Maybe to your spouse. Husbands, when last did you say to your spouse, I'm so glad you're in my life. You mean the world to me. When last did you say to your husband, when last did you say to your wife, I love you, I love you. And when you do that, you speak a blessing into their lives. Perhaps those of you who are employers, what about your employees? Have they heard from you that you're telling them you're doing a great job, and you're such a value you add value to our company? Maybe to your students, man, you are so talented. You've got such a great future ahead of you. When you do that, you are speaking a blessing into their lives. You know, it's like pulling like a bow, an arrow, and when you speak those words, you're releasing those arrows of God's favor into their lives, because one word of approval can mean a lifetime of fulfillment. And I want you to think right now about your past, for however long you've lived. Can you remember a time when maybe one person has said something special to you? They've spoken a blessing into your life, and when you were maybe younger, and you know what? It changed the trajectory of your life. It made you feel confident. It made you feel powerful. It made you stand up. It made you put your head up. Somebody has said something special, and it just it changed the trajectory of your life. You know, I just think of, sometimes I hear all the time when we work with people that, you know, husbands and wives, they never hear, I love you anymore. Like the wife complained to her husband, you don't tell me you love me anymore. He said, hey man, the day I married you, I said, I love you. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. Yes, that's clearly not good enough. But, you know, husbands, how often do you give your wife the blessing? You look great. You smell so nice. You are so beautiful. And, you know, when you speak those words from somebody who's significant in your life, they feel your approval. They feel your affection. And I think so many children struggle today because they haven't heard from their parents speak blessings into their life. You know, often it's too much. It's always like, hey, why can't you be like your brother? Look the way of your sister. If your sister can do this, why can't you do this? And then there is no affirmation. There's no blessing in there. There's always the criticism, why can't you be like, and there's the comparison trap, and we're in trouble. Parents, I want you to remember this morning, you must verbalize your blessing if it's going to be a blessing. Your words have creative power. Because too many times as parents, the only time we speak into our children, it's that rut narrative. Clean up your room. Pick up your towel. Pick up your clothes. Wash the bath. Have you done your homework? It's that type of narrative. There's never the blessing narrative, which our children need to hear from us every day of our lives. But I tell you today, the good news is it's never too late to start. And maybe some of you got children that have left the home, but you can pick up the phone and you can say to them, have I told you lately how proud I am of you? Have I told you lately how much you mean to me? Have I told you lately how much I love you? You need to know, parents, there is a God-given authority to parents that complete children, even older children, even when your children get older and out of the house, and maybe they don't even want to admit it when they get older. Even when you get to Irma and my age, you want to hear even from a mom at, when you get into those nether years, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. And even when my parents were still alive, it was wonderful to have my mom and dad speak words of blessing into my life. Let me tell you the story of a man by the name of Robert. Robert was a fantastic rugby player. But unfortunately, Robert's father was the town drunk. And unfortunately, he bore the brunt of the jokes about his father being drunk and, the driving offenses and stuff like that. Unfortunately, his father, as far as Robert knows, his dad never came to his games. But there would be in the newspaper MVP, most valuable player, and Robert's name appeared there. Anyway, Robert became a Christian, became an incredible businessman, but he was estranged from his father, the drunk. And one day, Robert heard that his dad had had a heart attack, and he better come soon. He's in the hospital. Anyway, he went to the hospital, and his dad was lying in the bed there, and his dad was slipping in and out of consciousness. His dad was extremely disorientated. And as Robert walked in the room, his dad mistook him for the doctor. And his dad said, "Hey, doctor, have I ever told you about my son, Robert? I am so proud of him. What an amazing son. You should see him play rugby. I mean, look at this. If you look in my wallet, you'll see that he's been the most valuable player in the last 3 games he's played. His church absolutely loves him. And what a businessman. What a businessman. Doctor, I wish you could meet my son, Robert." And that day, Robert got the affirmation that he craved all his life. Yes, he was a great rugby player, and all the other players, they congratulated him on being the MVP. Yes, at work, he got the accolades and the bonuses, and yes, at church, his church family loved him. But he needed his dad to say, "I'm proud of you." And that day, Robert received the blessing from his father. And it filled a big void that had been in his life for a long time. I say again, a blessing is only a blessing when it is spoken. When it is spoken. Fathers, you might think your children are great and think that they know it, but they need to hear it from you. Pick up the phone. Go and visit. Speak those words that will change their lives. You are the light of my life. You mean the world to me. When I think of you, a smile comes to my face. When you do that, it not only increases confidence in them, but it releases God's favor into their lives. And maybe for some of you, maybe this is the day you say, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start speaking blessings into the people's lives who are in my life. I love you. You mean the world to me. Now, I know some of you didn't grow up like this. There was no affection. And maybe even some of you are probably saying under your breath, maybe you'll say, that's not our family. We don't talk like that. We don't hug. We don't kiss. We don't show approval. We don't compliment each other. That's just not our family. And I say to you today, that needs to be your family. That needs to be your family. Today, maybe this is your breakout story. This is you need to start today. This is very much a biblical concept. You might remember the story of Isaac. And he had two sons, and we call them Jacob and Esau. And it's interesting that we call them Jacob and Esau because they were not born in that order. It was Esau and then Jacob. And if you remember that story, it was a mess up with the birthrights. Because Jacob's mother, Rebekah, came and interfered there because she had a preference, God forbid, of her children. She loved one child better than the other. She loved Jacob more than she loved Esau. And Esau, being the oldest, was to get the father's blessing. And it came for that time for Isaac to speak the blessing over his eldest son. But Rebekah and Jacob connived. And you remember, I won't tell you the whole story, but they put sheepskins on the arms. So when he came to his father who was blind, he would feel and he would think that was Esau. And there was food involved. And it came, and you know what? When it came, Isaac spoke the blessing over his son Jacob. Well, Esau found out about it, and can you imagine? He was absolutely livid. Genesis chapter 27 and verse 33, and he said, listen, you need to reverse this. You need to change this. And Jacob said, Genesis 27 verse 33, Isaac said, I've already spoken the blessing, and I cannot take it back. You see, once a favor has been spoken into somebody's life, it's not like you can change it. Because once those words come out, you can't put them back into your mouth. And so when you speak the blessing of your children, your spouse, your students, your employees, it makes a massive difference in their lives. Because once you've spoken it, you can't put it back. It cannot be changed. Can you imagine every one of us here this morning, we go out, we speak blessings over people's lives. Maybe you're going to go out and grab a cup of coffee. And the waiter comes over, speak a blessing into that person's life. That cashier that's going to sell you that Cadbury's whole nut, got a name tag there. Use their names. Use their names. Speak a blessing into their lives. Tell them what a great job they're doing. Thank them for their assistance in your life. There's too many poison sewers in this world. You see, anyone can point fingers. Anyone can complain. Anyone can spot mistakes. Anyone can judge. But it takes a person of faith. It takes a person of God to speak the blessing. Let me tell you about a little girl who had a cleft palate. She was left out. School was a nightmare for her, as you can imagine. She was introverted. She had no friends. At break time, at tea to lunchtime, she always had to sit alone. And then it came for the dreaded hearing tests. And the way the school conducted the hearing test was that the children would come one at a time, and they'd come and stand in front of the class. They would face the class, and the teacher would stand behind them, and the teacher would say nonsense sentences to see if they could hear, and then they would repeat those sentences. It was like, the sky is blue, and then the child would repeat, the sky is blue. The cat is outside, the cat is outside. And eventually it came that dreaded time for that young girl with a cleft palate to stand there, because she would have to speak with her impediment facing the entire class. And then the teacher stood behind her, and she said these words, I wish you were my little girl. She heard those words. Her hearing was great. You know, the other students in the class heard them as well. She stood up straight. She picked up her chin and she repeated, I wish you were my little girl. Man, when the other students heard this, that they wanted to be her friend. And all of a sudden, you know, she had people to sit with at lunch. There were other students in the class who wanted to invite her home. Come and play with me after school. It changed her life. A teacher speaking a blessing in her life. I've had thousands of times my parents speak words of blessing into my life. I believe it changed the course of my life. And I work with people who just never have a dad, never have a mom say anything good about them. And their whole life is full of insignificance. They just don't think they will amount to anything. Parents speak the words. What about your dying words? Are they going to be words of power? Are they going to be words of blessing? Are they going to be negative words? Will they be bitter words? How would you like to end your life? What will your dying words be? Will you speak the blessing? And every one of us have blessings locked up inside of us that just need to be spoken. It's not good enough to think good things of someone. You need to verbalize it in order for it to be a blessing. A blessing locked up inside you is not a blessing. It's only a blessing when it is verbalized, when a child hears it, when a student hears it, when a neighbor, when a spouse, when an employee, when they hear it from your mouth. We need to be a people who live blessing-minded. And so when you wake up in the morning, when you think of, what can I say to bless someone's life? What can I say? I mean, yesterday I got such a wonderful WhatsApp from somebody in this congregation. And it was a blessing over my life. And I appreciated it so much. What if some of you are saying, what if my children are off course? I can't speak a blessing in my life. No, yes, you can. You need to speak potential in their lives. You speak that, I know you can do this. I know that you have the potential. You have the ability. Some of you are saying, I'll only speak it if I see it. That's not the way to do it. Because you need to speak it so it will come to fruition. I know you are smart. I know you are talented. I know you are capable. You know what? Jesus did this to his disciples. He took these 12 disciples and they were, folks, for all intents and purposes, from a worldly perspective, they were nothingness. They were tax collectors. People hated them. They were fishermen. But Jesus said to them, you're the light of the world. Jesus said to them, you are the salt of the earth. Jesus told those disciples that he'd called, you're going to make an impact in this world. And guess what? They became what Jesus spoke into their lives. They rose to the level of Jesus' spoken blessing in their lives. And really they took Jesus' blessing, and the world was changed from a message that came through them, through the blessings that came through him. And they continued to go and speak words of life, and words of faith, words of victory, words that shape people's destiny. Because, folks, listen to me tonight, to this morning. Your words have creative power. Never underestimate the power of your words. I'll tell you the story about Jackson. Jackson was a cute little boy. And every night, his mom would read him a Bible story and then pray with him, tuck him into bed and give him a kiss. But before she left the room, she would name the superheroes and she would say, Jackson, you know what? You're my Superman. Jackson, you are my incredible help. Jackson, you're my Power Ranger. You're my Buzz Lightyear. And Mom was just speaking blessings into his life. And one day, Mom was still very busy. She had still work to do. And so quick Bible story, quick prayer, and she just tucked him and kissed him out. And she switched the light off. She left the room, and Jackson said, Mom. She walked in and said, Jackson, what's wrong? Jackson said, Mom, you never told me who I am. And parents, you need to know, if you are not telling your children who they are, someone else is. It's going to come from the internet. It's going to come from the playground. It's come from somebody else. And we need to be speaking words of blessing into our children. Speak the blessing before they hear about their lives on the TV and the internet. Our children need to hear from us. You're going to be making great decisions in this life. It's going to be hard. But I tell you what, you have the ability to make great decisions. God's going to help you that. Man, you're going to live a debt-free life. A lot of people, debt-free life. A lot of people out there, they're in debt. But you know what? You depend on the Lord. You follow His word, you're going to live a debt-free life. And you will be free from life's addictions. You will accomplish the things that you could never dream of because God's got amazing things for your life. And when you do that, you're speaking a blessing in their life. I've got one more story to tell you this morning. It's a true story about Michael. Michael's mommy was pregnant with his sister. It was an exciting time. And every day as he watched mommy's tummy grow, little Michael would come and he would hold mommy's tummy and he would start singing to his little baby sister. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy, when skies are gray. Well, I tell you what, the pregnancy was on, and daily this was his ritual. He just loved to hold mommy's tummy and sing those incredible words. But then came from the day of the delivery, and things went pear-shaped. It was a terrible day. It was a very, very difficult birth. And eventually Michael's baby sister was born, but the doctors came and said to Michael's mommy, she's probably not going to make it through the night. She was rushed into neonatal ICU. She's put in one of those little glass, those domes, full of pipes and everything. And then Michael kept saying to his mommy, when am I going to meet my baby sister? When am I going to see my baby sister? And of course they wanted to. Eventually, Mom and Dad decided, well, this is probably the last night. And so children not allowed in the neonatal ICU. They brought him in there, snuck him in there, and to begin with, he was a little taken aback with all the tubes and all the machines, beep, 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 and he saw his little sister lying in that little dome, and instinctively he put his hand through that little hole and he grabbed his sister by the hand, and Michael started to sing, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Well, a nurse saw Michael in there, and then she just nearly threw a haffy, and she went and called the matron, and the matron sort of came storming through the doors that they broke in, and she looked at Michael, but she looked at the machines. And all the numbers were getting better. The blood oxygen levels, the BP, the respiration, and the color was coming back into that little baby's face. And the other nurse says, can I take it out? And she said, no, keep singing. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You see, a word spoken, maybe we don't even comprehend these things. That little baby girl made it through the night, continued to improve, and a few days later was released to be with the family at home. Church, we need to live to speak blessing-minded. And you will help others to rise to another level if you can just cut the negative. Cut the narrative that always speaks the negative and the complaining and the judgment and speak a blessing. So I want to speak a blessing over you today. It's a blessing that Moses gave to give to the people. And you've heard it well. Before we sing, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Let's stand together as we sing.